April had been clearing out Linda's apartment for 3 weeks by then, sorting through clothes and books and kitchen things, deciding what to donate and what to keep, and what to simply let go of the way you let go of everything that belongs to someone who is no longer there to claim it. It was slow work. Grief always makes things slower. Linda had died 6 months earlier. A heart attack on a Tuesday afternoon in March 2022. She had been alone in her apartment when it happened. By the time anyone found her, it was already over. She was 61 years old, and she had been Gloria's closest friend for 27 years. And now she was gone, and her apartment still smelled like her. And April was the one who had volunteered to clear it out, because her mother could not bring herself to do it. The box was behind a wall panel in the bedroom closet. April only found it because the panel was slightly loose. She had bumped it while reaching for something on the shelf above, and it had shifted, and there behind it was a space just large enough for a shoebox-sized wooden box with a small brass latch. She stood there for a moment looking at it. Then she called her mother. Gloria arrived 20 minutes later. She stood in the doorway of Linda's bedroom, looking at the box on the bed, and something moved through her that she could not name. Not quite dread, not quite curiosity, something in between. She sat on the edge of the bed. April sat beside her. They opened it together. Inside, a folded document. A social security card. A driver's license from the state of Kentucky, expired. The kind of expiry date that meant it had not been renewed in over 20 years. And a photograph. A woman who looked like Linda but younger, much younger, and with an expression on her face that Gloria had never once seen on her friend in 27 years of friendship. Inside, a folded document. A social security card, a driver's license from the state of Kentucky, expired, the kind of expiry date that meant it had not been renewed in over 20 years, and a photograph. Fear, pure and unmistakable fear. The name on the driver's license was not Linda. Gloria picked it up and read it twice. Then she set it down on the bed between them and did not say anything for a long time. April picked up her phone. She typed the name into Google. She pressed search. The first result that came back was a missing persons report, filed in Louisville, Kentucky. In the year 1999, Gloria met Linda in the fall of 1996 at a church potluck dinner in Cincinnati, Ohio. Linda had brought a sweet potato casserole that everyone agreed was the best thing on the table, and she had laughed when Gloria told her so. A big open laugh, the kind that fills a room and makes everyone around it feel warmer. Gloria had thought, I want to know this woman. And she had introduced herself, and that had been the beginning of 27 years. Linda had no family she ever spoke about. When the subject came up, which it did, over the years, the way subjects always eventually come up between close friends, Linda would deflect with warmth and humor, and just enough information to satisfy the question, without really answering it. She had grown up in a small town. Her parents were gone. She had no siblings. She had left her old life behind when she moved to Cincinnati, and she preferred to look forward rather than back. Gloria had respected that. She had her own complicated history. She understood the desire to leave certain things in the past where they belonged. What Gloria had not understood, what she had never once suspected, was that Linda's past was not merely complicated. It was hidden, deliberately, carefully, completely hidden, behind a name that was not her own, and a life that had been built from scratch, on top of the ruins of another one. Warren had said something once. Just once, early in the friendship, maybe 2 or 3 years in, he had said, I do not think Linda is who she says she is. He had said it quietly, almost to himself, the way Warren said things he was not entirely sure about. Gloria had told him he was being unfair. She had told him that some people simply valued their privacy, and that did not make them dishonest. Warren had nodded, and never brought it up again. He was that kind of man. Gloria had thought about that conversation many times in the weeks since April found the box. She had thought about it and felt something she did not entirely want to name, something that sat between guilt and grief, and the particular bewilderment of realizing that the person who knew you best had also been the one most completely deceived. The missing persons report was for a woman named Diane Carol Hutchins, age 34 at the time of disappearance. Last seen in Louisville, Kentucky in August of 1999. The photograph in the report was Linda, younger, frightened, but unmistakably Linda. And then April had read the detail that stopped Gloria completely. Diane Carol Hutchins had left behind 2 children, a boy aged 4, a girl aged 2. Gloria had read that line 3 times. Then she had put the phone down on the bed and walked to Linda's kitchen and stood at the sink and looked out the window at the parking lot below for a very long time. Linda had children. Linda had left 2 babies behind, and in 27 years of friendship, she had never once said a single word about them. April made the call to the Louisville, Kentucky Police Department the following morning. She was transferred twice before she reached the records division, and then transferred again before someone gave her the name of the detective who had originally worked the Diane Hutchins case. His name was Samuel Osei. He had retired 4 years earlier. They tracked down a phone number through the department's retired officers directory, and April called it on a Thursday afternoon with Gloria sitting beside her at the kitchen table. Samuel Osei answered on the 3rd ring. April explained who she was and why she was calling. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then he said, "I have been waiting 23 years for this phone call. Tell me everything." He listened without interrupting, while April told him what they had found. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I am going to tell you something that is going to be difficult to hear, and I need you to hear all of it before you respond." He told them about Diane Hutchins, about the marriage she had been in since 1993, a man named Roy Hutchins, who by every account the department had gathered was controlling in ways that had escalated over the years into something much worse. Diane had tried to leave twice. The first time Roy had found her at her sister's house within 48 hours. The second time she had made it 3 days before he tracked her down. Both times she had gone back. Both times the situation at home had gotten worse rather than better. The third time she left, she did not tell anyone. She did not go to her sister. She did not contact any friend or family member. She simply disappeared, leaving the children with her mother and walking away from everything she had ever known and starting again somewhere else under a different name. Samuel Osei said, "We looked for her for 2 years. We eventually concluded she had left voluntarily and was not in danger. Roy Hutchins told us she had abandoned her family. The children grew up believing their mother had chosen to leave them." Gloria listened to all of this without speaking. When Samuel Osei finished, she asked the only question she could think to ask. She said, "Did she do the right thing?" And he was quiet for a long moment before he said, "I think she did the only thing she believed she could do." Whether it was right, that is not something I am able to answer for you. He gave April the contact information for Diane's children. The boy, Marcus, was now 27. The girl, Teresa, was 25. They had grown up in Louisville with their grandmother until she died in 2008. After that, they had raised each other. Samuel Osei said, "They deserve to know. Whatever you decide to tell them, they deserve to know she was alive. They deserve that much at least." Gloria made the call herself. She had decided that much, that if anyone was going to tell Teresa and Marcus that their mother had been alive and living in Cincinnati, Ohio for 23 years, it was going to be her, and not April, and not a stranger on the phone from a police records department. Teresa answered. Gloria introduced herself. She said, "I was your mother's best friend for 27 years. I did not know who she really was until 6 days ago, and I am calling because I think you deserve to hear everything I know." Teresa listened. She did not interrupt. When Gloria finished, there was a silence on the line that lasted long enough that Gloria thought the call had dropped. Then Teresa said, 27 years. She had 27 years with you and she gave us nothing. Not one phone call, not one letter, not one sign that she was even alive. My brother spent 15 years believing she was dead. I spent 15 years wishing she was. Gloria had no answer for that. There was no good answer. She sat with the silence and let Teresa have it because it was hers to have. Then Teresa said something that Gloria had not expected. She said, "Did she ever talk about us? In 27 years, did she ever once mention having children?" And Gloria told her the truth, because it was the only thing left she could give her. No, Linda had never mentioned children, not once. Not in 27 years of Sunday dinners and birthday phone calls and hospital waiting rooms and road trips and late-night conversations and all the accumulated ordinary intimacy of a long, close friendship. She had never once said, "I have a son, I have a daughter, I left them behind and I think about them every day." She had never said any of it. Teresa went silent again. When she spoke, her voice had changed. Something in it had shifted, some layer of anger giving way to something rawer and harder to name. She said, "I need to see where she lived. I need to see it." Gloria said, "Whenever you are ready, I will be there." Teresa and Marcus drove up from Louisville on a Saturday morning in November. Gloria met them in the parking lot of Linda's apartment building. She recognized them immediately. Teresa had Linda's eyes, and Marcus had her way of holding himself, slightly apart from the space around him, slightly careful, as though he had learned early that the world required a certain watchfulness. They shook hands in the parking lot. Nobody knew what else to do. Then Gloria led them upstairs. She had left the apartment mostly as it was. She had not been able to bring herself to clear it out since April found the box, and she was glad now that she had not. Teresa and Marcus walked through it slowly. The kitchen, the living room, the small bedroom with its window looking out over the parking lot. They touched things and did not touch things. They looked at the books on the shelves and the photographs on the walls and the ordinary accumulated details of a life lived fully and privately and completely apart from the lives they had been living without her. Teresa found the photograph on the bookshelf. Linda at a birthday party, laughing, surrounded by friends, completely at ease, completely herself. Teresa picked it up and held it for a long time without speaking. Then she went into the bedroom and found the drawer of the bedside table and opened it. Inside, 2 envelopes, one with Teresa's name on it, written in Linda's handwriting, one with Marcus's name. The envelopes were sealed. They had never been sent. Teresa took hers into the bedroom and closed the door. She was in there for a long time. Marcus sat on the couch in the living room and looked at his envelope and did not open it. Gloria sat beside him and did not say anything, because there was nothing to say. When Teresa came out, her expression had changed. Whatever she had gone in carrying, she had come out carrying something different. Not lighter exactly, but different. Rearranged. Gloria asked, "Are you all right?" Teresa said. She knew. She said so in the letter. She knew what she had done to us, and she knew it was unforgivable. And she said so herself. She said she thought about us every day. She said she could not come back because she was afraid that coming back would lead him back to her, and she could not risk what he would do. She said she chose us by leaving us. She said she knew we would never understand that, and she was not asking us to. Teresa put the envelope in her pocket and walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot. Then she said, "I do not know what to do with any of this." Gloria said, "Neither do I." They stood there together for a while, 2 women who had both loved the same person in completely different ways and been left by her in completely different ways, and were now standing in her living room, trying to figure out what came next. There was no clean answer. There was no resolution that made everything make sense. There was only the truth, complicated and painful and strangely, unexpectedly full of a love that had survived things it had no right to survive. Gloria drove home alone that evening. She sat in her car in the driveway for a long time. She thought about 27 years of friendship. She thought about sweet potato casserole at a church potluck. She thought about Warren saying, "I do not think Linda is who she says she is," and herself saying, "You are being unfair." She thought about Teresa's eyes, Linda's eyes, looking at a photograph of a woman laughing at a birthday party. She thought, "I did not know her, and then I knew her completely, and then both of those things are true at the same time, and I am going to spend the rest of my life figuring out how to hold them both." She was my best friend for 27 years. Her real name was not even Linda, and somehow, I still miss her every single day.